Hello, friends. Welcome back to Panel Chewing. And this is issue number 87. We are getting up there in numbers. If you are missing Mike's silky smooth voice, Mike is taking a little bit of hiatus. He has a lot of personal things going on, so he will be taking a break. But we will keep his seat warm for him and await his return. But I am here this week again with Jarrod. Thank you for joining me.
As always, thank you for having me, Steve. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So in the spirit of Mike, he always has a question for us, so I can prepare this week. And the question this week is, so it's kind of a double question. And the first part is for you and then for the general readership. But the question is character or creator more important?
That's a good question. I would say for much of my collecting history, it would have been creator based. For a while, I got anything Chris Claremont did. I got anything Peter David did for a while. And then I moved on to Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips and Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman when he was doing stuff, and so that was mostly creators based. That was my thing. There were, of course, exceptions. Conan being the biggest one.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, that's what it was. Then for you,
What do you think about general readership or general average comic book reader? Do you think character or creators more?
That's a good question with the general public. I think the publishers bank on character-based interaction with the public, and I think that works in a lot of cases. A lot of people, when I used to work at the comic book store, a lot of people would come in saying, "Hey, what do you have for Spider-Man?" Or something to that effect, and that definitely is a thing for the well-known characters. That was, the general public was a character-based consumer. So I think the more somebody gets into comics, the more they start realizing who's creating them, and then more likely they are apt to veer towards following that creator. But for someone who's a casual comic reader or a first, just somebody fresh to the scene, then it was definitely more character based, and that's more the general public. Anyway, that we old hoagies who have been following comics for a long time are the exception to the rule of the general public.
Yeah, for me, I think I think I veer towards more creators. I think it's because I generally read more independent comics, or I don't really base it off characters. So anything Garth Ennis does, Jason Burrows as an artist, Alan Moore, the Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips, most of those, there's a few other ones that I can't think of the top of my head at the moment for some reason, but those are the ones I kind of look out for. And if their name is on the cover, or another one is The Sacrificers.
Remender, yeah.
Rick Remender. Yeah. Anything that they do, I'll check out. I'll give a chance to. For as far as characters go, I think it doesn't really matter as much to me if I'm not going to enjoy a run of a character that I like, but the creator just isn't my cup of tea. Then I'm fine missing out on that run because I know I won't enjoy it. It won't stop for me. But I do think a lot of comic book readers, and I think the movies have kind of encouraged this, is that they want to keep up with a certain character and they want to know everything that happens with the character. That's why you see Batman titles; they're always on the top selling list, even when the
Yeah.
reviews are bad for it. I think it's anything with Batman on the cover or on the title is going to sell decent. So I think there is a section of the of readership out there who just wants everything Spider-Man, everything Batman, everything Wonder Woman, or whatever it may be. But I do think most comic book readers, like you said, I think now kind of base their purchasing decisions on creators, on who's creating what. So, but if you're a completionist, then I think everything, a certain character, you want everything from a certain character, which is fine. But there's only so many books you can read every month, and only so many dollars you can spend on comics. So
Yeah.
so it can add up pretty quick.
Yeah. It's only fine if it's Conan. Yeah, so there.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder how they choose writers for Conan, because it's such an iconic character, and there's a certain standard that you would expect to have for someone like Conan. So I wonder who makes those decisions and who chooses who creates
Yeah.
for that character.
I mean, I know that even Superman and Batman and all those characters take pitches from potential writers.
Mm.
They got to write a pitch. They got to write they have to write an outline and saying, here's what I want to do with the character. Here's what here's the direction I want to go. And that's a big part of breaking into to the getting on those books for the the pay and what have you. That's where you can make money as a comic book creator. Unless you're one of your independent books happen to strike it big and get a good deal or something like that. But as a regular gig, you want to be on Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, but you have to pitch that. You have to impress the editors at the time with what your vision for the character is going to be, and that's probably the same for Conan as well.
I would imagine even if you're not, even if you don't want to work for the big two, for Marvel or DC, I think having your name on the cover for those books will give you some kind of build your readership, and then you can branch off and create your own.
Absolutely.
Your own books on another publisher. So I think that would be a way to kind of just get your name out there and be featured and get some attention for what you can do, and then branch off and do your own thing. So I don't know many writers now who stick around that long on kind of the big two. Even like even the major characters, they seem to have people come in and do a run, and then they'll change it up.
Especially nowadays, yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit different back in the 80s, but
oh yeah, because look at some of the runs that these creators had. I think it goes on for years and years. But not so common anymore. Whether or not that's a good or bad thing, I guess that's another conversation.
Sure, you could explore that at another time. Yeah, but that's definitely a topic. Yeah,
something to think about for sure. So we have a list this week, and after last week that I had kind of a not so great week, pretty decent week this week. Now the first book on my list is Absolute Green Lantern #2, and there's a whole new take on Abian Sur. If I pronounce that correctly, it's reimagined, and he's horrifying. Definitely a different take on it. In this series is leaning into the horror, and with it leaning into the horror aspects of the story, we do get a lot of characters in typical horror fashion. We get a lot of characters doing insane things that are really annoying, and then you root for them to be killed. I'm not sure if it's on purpose to make these characters annoying and just root against them, but Yeah, they are. Some couple of them are just they do and say questionable things, but the art is solid. I've heard a few. I went and looked at a few reviews and a few kind of uh, different takes on this one, and there was a lot of people who complain who kind of were unhappy about the horror being so front with this one. But that's the whole point with the absolute line, is to do something different and to take chances. And not everyone will like it, and that's okay. And but I think it's a chance to do something, a whole different take on a character like Green Lantern and the whole Lantern mythos, and to approach it differently and to do something the fresh take. So it won't be for everyone, but I think it's pretty fun. I think it's really neat. So looking forward to seeing what will happen next, but I'm definitely on board with this one.
Cool. So my pulls this week are all. It's a strange week for me. None of them are standard comic book size. None of them are standard comic book length. And so it's a strange week. And speaking about not being for everyone, my first one is the newly relaunched Heavy Metal #1. Heavy Metal magazine, they call it, even though it's a bunch of comics. And this new Heavy Metal #1 has a spectacular Frank Frazetta cover, classic Frazetta style, and Steve can see it, but and it is thick. This is like graphic novel length. It's 240 pages of wall-to-wall comics and interviews with some of the past contributors and current contributors to the magazine. There's a few articles in here on the history of heavy metal, and there's different iterations that it went through and stuff, but they kept them short, and they kept most of the book comics and really wild sci-fi and fantasy comics that heavy metal's been known for the past 50 years or however long it's been around. And a lot of these things are not going to be for everybody. There's a lot of sex and nudity, and there's a lot of violence, and which is what heavy metal is known for. So it shouldn't be any surprise to anybody. I doubt there would be anybody who accidentally picks up this magazine. It's definitely something with a name that people are going to know what it is, and they're going to go for it, But there's a lot of really cool, it's like an anthology almost. There's a lot of really cool short stories in here. But the book is so thick that some of these shorts are actually a good length. They're like a good 15 pages long, and so you actually get a pretty good story out of them. And the artwork varies wildly. It goes from classic, drafted, beautiful stuff to really strange, experimental type of comic book artwork. And it's all, a lot of it is in kind of that European style of drawing and coloring and stuff like that, but it ranges anywhere from Raphaelite to cartoonish, and it really is a smorgasbord of stuff in here that if you like sci-fi and fantasy, you'll find something you like in this magazine, whether you want to pay the price for it. It's pretty hefty. It's a pretty hefty price tag. It's $14.99, but it's also, like I said, graphic novel size. It's not like you're getting a small floppy for that price. You're getting a really thick chunk of magazine, and I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was worth it for what I got out of it, and like not everything in here was a hit, but there were some definite hits in here that were pretty cool. and it was just neat having this package and seeing this magazine again, which I wasn't like a regular reader of it or anything like that. I wasn't like a collector of the magazine, but this was a kind of special number one, and it like it's worth it just on its own.
Price tag isn't really too. I mean, if you think $15 for 240 or 80 pages,
Yeah,
it's too bad, really.
it's not too bad, no.
Yeah, not too bad for a wide variety of content.
Yeah, wide variety. It's a slick package. It's a very well put together package, and it seems to be. I'm not sure if that's the size of it is just because of the number one. I'm not sure what their format going forward is going to be, but we'll see. I might check it out when it comes out again.
So, for someone who's not too familiar with heavy metal, because I know that there'll be some people out there who aren't too familiar with it, who would you recommend pick up?
I think if you liked the stories in, we've previously gone over. I think, what was the horror anthology you were reading? Into the Darkness or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. If you like that kind of stuff, if you like Cruel Kingdom that we read, um, and I think there's a upcoming Cruel sci-fi one or something like that.
yeah, for the
If you like that kind of stuff, then there's something in heavy metal for you.
I think I might check it out just to because I've watched a couple of the movies, and it's almost like you feel like you should be in a different type of mindset when you watch those.
Yeah,
Uh, they're a
yeah,
little different, but I've always wanted to pick up kind of the magazine or the book, so maybe I'll check those out.
yeah, pretty cool.
Definitely has a certain charm to them because
Yeah,
it has a history.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of funny because like I said, in the past, I've picked up an occasional magazine, and I've gotten it, and I'm always like, wow, this is pretty cool, every time I get one. But then the next time I kind of miss it or I don't get the next one, and I'm like, I shrug, whatever, no big deal. Uh, it's so it's one of those things that it's like if you have the cash, I guess. If you're a little light that week, then I wouldn't pick it up. But if you have it, it's always at least half enjoyable, the stories you get out of there. And it's a good time. Storage is a problem maybe because it's weird size and
Yeah,
but
I think I'll grab that one just to, for the just to check it out, just because.
yeah, it's definitely a nostalgia trip if you're a fan of the 80s stuff.
Yeah, the Friends that I cover alone is.
Yeah, Frizetta is just great. Yeah.
So the next one for me is called In Bloom. This is issue 4 of 5. This is by Boom Studios. This has been an interesting series from the very beginning. So in this world, for those who aren't familiar with it, it's kind of this. It's almost similar to The Last of Us, is where there's these spores have begun infecting people, and when you bloom, you become something different. So your body changes. You have fungi on your face or in your body, and it changes you. Some people view this as a blessing, and some people view it as a curse. There's a whole system built around people who bloom. So there's a lot of kind of different themes you can pull out of this book, society and different views on different people. But this story has been wrapping up, and we're getting more and more information about our main character, and we get a pretty big revelation towards the end of this book, leading up to this, which must be a pretty packed last issue. I feel like it's been well paced. The art's been really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it wraps up the last issue. And there's a fun Big Brother kind of parody in this one that it was about kind of people that are blooming or who's going to bloom, and there's a vote. They're going to vote out of the house. I thought it was pretty neat. It was pretty funny. So yeah, I think it's a clever story, and even when the story ends, I think there's a lot of other stories to be told in this universe. I think it's a it's a setup that's ripe for lots of different stories. So I hope once this wraps up that we come back to this world. Excuse me, we come back to this world and explore it in different ways. And I think there's a lot of neat things that can be done with this setup. So hopefully it's not the last we see of this world once this wraps up.
Yeah, cool. Up next, I got Warm Fusion #2 from our friends at Distillery Comics, and I am continuing reading on this series from issue 1, and the story in this issue really bear it down and gave us a solid mystery corporate espionage type of story set somewhere in the near future where things have gone bad, and basically New York. It's in New York City, but it's basically New York City is on its own now, as it doesn't have like any outside help, so it has to set up its own resources and its own you know, health system, whatever, as minimal as it is. And the so that the corporations that are there, they have a lot of power because they're in the best position to actually set some of this stuff up. And so it's a necessary evil, so to speak. And the and I like where the story has gone from the first issue. I like how the focus of the story went from one character to another, and it followed her along where she's trying to find out the mystery of what this corporation is doing and what plans they got. And it really has a dark fairy tale aspect to it that's kind of twisted in a little ways, which I really enjoyed. And there's also these themes of growing cynicism over people who supposedly have expertise, which we see that, of course, like sci-fi always does. We see that reflected in our society today, and I think they're doing it really well in this series, and I'm looking forward to the final third issue. I really enjoying this series right now.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty strong review for this one. The first issue when you talked about it sounded really good, but it sounds like the level is pretty consistent.
Yeah, it's consistent. The pacing is done well. It's just going in the right places to move a 3-issue story along. You have a feeling it's where it's supposed to be, but you're also surprised at some of the cool direction that it's going to as well. So it's pretty cool. I'm liking it a lot, and the artwork is very moody and it's very dark and fits the bleak sci-fi setting very well.
Very nice. So the next one on my list is The Creeping Below #3 by Boom Studios. And I keep saying this, but I love Vanessa Del Rey's artwork. It's very dark and haunting. It fits the story perfectly. It also fit Exorcism at 1600 Pen, the series that just wrapped up. I didn't enjoy the story as much, but the artwork has been solid throughout. It's just beautiful artwork. If you enjoy dark, just moody, kind of gothic type of artwork, it's beautiful artwork. I'd love to have like a full page or like a cover on the wall one day, but great artwork. Unfortunately, as much as I love the artwork, the story is pretty lacking in this series. There's really big panels. I think the pages and the panels are set up to kind of showcase the artwork, and so that we have really big spreads, really big panels. Unfortunately, when you have really big spreads and really big panels all the time, it takes away from the story because it's focusing so much more on artwork, and it's not moving the story along very much. when I finished the third issue, I thought, what's really happened in this book in 3 issues? There's some books you read that in 1 or 2 issues, you've gone a long way story wise. You've covered a lot of ground. We haven't really covered so much in this series at all, and it's really, there was a lot of influence from films like Jennifer's Body and Evil Dead, at least the remake in 2015 or so. So there's a lot of influence there. So I'm hopeful that things will pick up. It seems like we're leading up to some things, but it's tough when you choose what you're going to read every month or every week, and there's books you know that you're in for a journey. Things like The Sacrificers, things like Minor Arcana, things like you know, there's some other books I'm sure I'm not thinking of at the moment, but there's books you know that you'll cover a lot of ground, that you'll have a story, you'll have something to reflect on. It's just not the case here, and it's unfortunate, but I'm hoping it picks up. So I will continue because of the art for now, but I'm hoping that it starts to pick up and we start to move along.
One of the beauties of having a visual medium is, you know, you do get it for some of the art.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Moving on to Savage Sword of Conan, number 8. I was eagerly awaiting this, as I always am, and kind of funny story is when I went to order it from I ordered it online, and they didn't have the regular cover. And the only cover I could get is the one that has no words on it. It's just a gloriously awesome painting by Joe Jusko of Conan up on the being crucified up on the X there, biting the vulture's head, and that's from a Robert E. Howard story of Conan, The Witch is Born. Has nothing to do with what goes on in the issue at all, but this is a really awesome cover, so it's almost worth it for that alone. But the stories inside are new stories, so you don't have to have known anything about from previous issues to read this one. And I gotta say, this time around they were fairly average for Conan stories. There's nothing in here that stood out over previous issues, unlike like there was a Roy Thomas issue earlier that was fantastic. This one was okay. It was pretty good. The artwork was also okay. It was pretty good. It wasn't anybody who I recognized, and it did the job. It's nice big pages, black and white, and there was a nice little short story in here, prose short story in here as well, by John Hockman. So I was glad to read that because I have one of his Conan novels sitting on the shelf I haven't gotten to yet. So it was good to see that he could he has some pretty good chops. And there was a short story towards the end of the magazine that was done by Liam Sharp, and he is a wonderful artist. So I did get a good section of artwork in here from Liam Sharp. He's been around for a long time in the comics industry, and I always like it when I see his stuff. So overall, it's kind of an average issue, but it was pretty solid. Not bad at all. Just we've had better issues of Savage Sword previous to this, and but it has this one does have some highlights. Definitely worth it because it's magazine size. It's extra length. It's only $7, considering Marvel puts out $7 crap these days.
That's true. Yeah, very true.
It's definitely worth the price of admission.
Yeah, there's always a book that I hear you talk about every week, and then I never really see it in the bookstore. I have to be more attentive next week when I go fit my weekly run. Do you know if it's available digitally?
I do not know. It's a good question.
Who's the publisher again for that one? Is it IDW? Oh,
Titan Comics. Yeah.
Let's take a look at that. Well, the next one for me, I have two more before we get into our picks. The first one was a quick one. It's Time Waits #1 by our friends at Distillery. So I love time travel stories, and I think the concept of kind of what it does to you and it affects on you, and kind of um, how you can use time, especially in this kind of format, is fun. I think how it can be abused, and again, like you mentioned, Jared, it reminds me a lot of Time Cop. I like the artwork. It has some, it's very clean, very neat, but there's some scenes that the characters have this kind of bit of lightheartedness and humor that just didn't quite fit with the moment. So it wasn't my favorite, but it's still something that I'll give a read to the second issue for. And the last one before we get into our picks, it's called Vanishing Point #1. It's by Mad Cave, and this is a new science fiction anthology series. And it looks like this one will be, instead of it being short stories or full issues, that is a full issue of a story being told. There's 6 issues. It's planned for 6 issues. This was nearly my pick. Very close. Very good book. The first story takes place. There's a man who, in the future, is hired or takes a job to mine an asteroid belt, and this has to be done by humans because there's certain things that humans can recognize that AI or the computers can't. So he is hired to mine asteroids in this belt, and he can't return home before his quota is met. Otherwise, he won't get any of the money he's earned. So he's trapped there until he finishes his quota, and it's a I won't say how long it's going to be, but it's a significant amount of time. And he is communicating with his family back home, and he discovers some things in the asteroid belt that are unexpected. I'm not going to spoil it, but very, it gives you a whole different take on kind of life and space, and it's a disturbing and heartbreaking and thought-provoking story. Very effective. It's really tight, with being about 30 pages or so. And it'll stick with me for a little while. It was a very, very good story. And if you enjoy self-contained science fiction stories, if you've seen the film Moon, kind of get an idea, a little bit of a hint on what might be happening, or at least an idea. So that kind of it gives you that kind of vibe. But yeah, really, really good first issue.
Writing that one down. Mad Cave. Okay. Damn those quotas.
Yeah.
So on to the pick of the week.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up the graphic novel adaptation of A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. That is, of course, it's a very famous novel, fantasy novel from way back in the late 60s. And I only picked it up because I actually don't own a copy of the novel, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll get the graphic novel and check it out. But I didn't realize how much of a surprise I was in for with this adaptation. The artwork is kind of like a watercolor type of artwork, and it really works for this story. I was totally immersed in the characters, in the setting, just because of this gorgeous artwork that is it's adapted by and illustrated by Fred Fordham, and it's put out by Clarion Books. And there's like pages in here of just artwork telling the story, like no captions or anything like that. And it's just gorgeously done. Especially, there's a lot of if anybody knows Earthsea, there's a lot of sailing involved. There's a lot of ocean scenes, a lot of island scenes, and he just captures it wonderfully. And I just enjoyed the heck out of this. I think because I was always a little lukewarm on The Wizard of Earthsea as a novel, and I actually like the sequels better, the A Tomb of Atuin and then The Farthest Shore in that trilogy.
Mhm.
This kicked it up a notch for me. It was so
Wow.
well done. I just love the mood and atmosphere he brings to the artwork, and through the artwork he brings that to the story, and he just gives you a whole different feel and glimpse into this wondrous creation of Le Guin's of Earthsea. And you know, there's a nice little dragon there, Steve, right there.
Oh, nice.
But it's so moody. It's so I just loved it so much. I couldn't. I was engrossed when I was reading this thing, and if I highly recommend it. Even if you've never read A Wizard of Earthsea, I highly recommend picking this up and checking it out. I don't think you would miss too much by not reading the book and then reading this. I think you would get the full experience, and that's how good of an adaptation it is. And I can't recommend it enough. I was thoroughly impressed, and it's a really beautiful looking package. It's got embossed letters on the front in gold, and the artwork really gets shown off in here. It's just a very nice book.
Hmm. Wow. Looks really nice.
Yeah.
It must be tough to adapt a story like that, or to have. I mean, the pressure you must feel when you adapt a thing, story like that.
Yeah, especially when you're talking to the Le Guin estate and, you're trying to pitch something like this. I wonder, yeah, you're right, what kind of pressure you would be under to deliver something that's going to satisfy, um, the real diehards.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Not only from the estate, but also from the readership that
Yeah.
are familiar with the story and who expect certain things, certain standard. That's tough.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see they pulled it off. Sounds like. So for me, for my pick this week, it was very, very close. But I love Absolute Superman #7. I gotta say, I'm really surprised. I think the pacing for the first 7 issues or so has been really well done. I think it's given us time to learn Superman, his history, where he fits in this world, kind of his views on, or at least what he's struggling with. And this kind of the slow burn. I think these other Absolute books jumped into kind of status quo pretty quickly, and Batman was Batman, Wonder Woman's Wonder Woman. You start introducing villains right away, kind of business as usual kind of approach. And I think Absolute Superman took a different approach. And in issue 7, we get the introduction for Brainiac, and it is a horrific, dark, haunting, disturbing backstory. It's a completely different Brainiac, and it's chilling. It's this issue is all, I think it's all Brainiac. It's all about him and his backstory. But he's a real threat. And we all know that Superman's going to find a way. I mean that's just one of those things that he's going to find a way to persevere. I don't think that's ever really in question with a lot of these books. But I think what I'm curious about, the reason that it's so intriguing to me, how Superman will deal with a character like Brainiac, is that how it'll change him and how he'll deal with the threat. I think that's going to be more interesting, and how it'll change his development as he's kind of fitting into the role, because he's still very new to it. So yeah, I think this issue it is science fiction horror. It is so well done. Not only Brainiac is not only a good villain for Superman, he's a great villain for the whole Absolute universe. I do anticipate him playing a role later if we do get some crossover, because he has been set up so well that he has to be used in some bigger kind of plot or some bigger kind of crossover event. So yeah, so good. I love this issue. I loved what Aaron's doing with the writing, and yeah, so good. I just loved it. I think it was great.
That's cool. It's on my pile to read. I just got it in like yesterday. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, really good stuff. So good.
Well, we know Jason Aaron can tell a good story.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of the times when these creators are writing for a mainstream character, sometimes you can kind of tell they're mailing it in, like they're getting the paycheck. But so far, this series seems like Aaron's really still pulling out all the chops and is really giving us something pretty good. Like, I'm looking forward to reading this one.
Yeah, I think it's a different approach than the other Absolute books.
Yeah.
And I think it's a kind of a more of a long-term approach. It took a little bit of time to build, but I think now it's starting to pay off. So
that's cool.
Good stuff. So for those of you who are reading along with us, we picked a series that is available on Hoopla, Libby, and we decided on Uncanny X-Men. And I believe we started a few weeks ago with the Claremont run, Uncanny X-Men. And we are going to be discussing issues 101 and 102 today. It is right after the events of issue 100. So, yeah, if you'd like to read along with us, it is free to check these out from your local library, and you can do this digitally. And if you would join us for a reread of these. It's been a long time for me, but yeah, Jarrod, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah. So number 101. I felt that this issue kind of started out in a bit more somber and serious tone than we've seen up to now. And I feel like it's gonna start reflecting a bit more somber and serious tone in nature as we go forward that we came to expect later on in this run. Because for those of you who don't know, both Steve and I have read these before a long time ago, but so we have certain expectations that we're rediscovering here. And of course, the big revelation is the Phoenix, and that that they found her. She survived, brought her to the hospital. They're watching over. We get that little hint that Wolverine has a big crush on her. Which we know causes problems later, right?
Yeah.
And but then it kind of gets into that funny comic book area after that, where Professor X kind of gives them this forced vacation.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, you're gonna enforce a vacation. You have to go together. And I was like, okay. So that was it got after all the serious reflection and revelation and worry about the hospital and stuff like that. Then you go and say, all right, go on vacation together. And of course, we get introduced to the new big bads of Black Tom Cassidy and the Juggernauts. And the Juggernaut's a recurring villain in this issue. He had previously been in older comics, but he's hoping. I guess he's the cousin of Professor X, or
I forget what the relationship is.
Something like that. Somehow he's related to him, and of course he wants a little revenge for something. I don't know what the beef is, but he's always been a fun villain anyway, so I always like reading about him. He's he's a piece of work.
Yeah, it was kind of surprised me a little bit because we have issue 100, and then we have this, Jean Grey becomes the Phoenix, and it starts off with the Phoenix, and then everyone's on vacation, which is kind of strange. The Logan Jean Grey thing, I don't, I forgot how it started, but I know later on down the line, for decades, they've had a thing, they've had a weird kind of semi-romance. I don't know really where it came from, like what sparked this attraction, really, because they haven't had that much interaction with each other. But Logan seems very enamored by her very quickly. And I don't know, maybe I missed it, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of build up or kind of tension there.
Yeah, in typical old comic fashion in the 70s, these things move very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And he did mention something when they were all captured, in a previous issue by Trask. They were all captured and held prisoner. He mentioned something about how much he admired her or something like that. But yeah, now he's like buying her flowers and then throwing the flowers away when he sees Scott show up.
Yeah, I mean, that they're a thing. I mean, I don't know.
But yeah. So, but it was fun though. It's still fun to read. I'm having a good time with these, and of course, the next issue, number 102, they get into you get the big fight, a lot of fighting going on. But the more important thing, I think, was delving into Aurora's past. We get a lot of her Storm's past and her, character and some insight into her, what she went through. And they do it in such a short time, they tell so much in such a little 1 or 2 pages. There's a lot of information there.
A lot of information.
Yeah, and there was even a philosophical question from Jean Grey to her friend Misty Knight, who is a character in another book. So there's a little crossover there without actually telling us there's a crossover. I don't know how they know each other. I don't know how they became friends, but either way, she asked her, "How would you feel if you died and brought yourself back to life?" And I thought that was a very interesting question for this character in this book as well, because it's not you've been brought back to life. You brought yourself back to life. And I think there's a key difference there. And that's a question that, of course, it's not answered, but it's out there. It's something to think about.
One of the things I did notice on this issue that I wanted to bring up and get your thoughts on, when Cyclops is talking to Professor X and he tells him that he's going to leave the X-Men to take care of her, Professor X has a strong reaction. It's like, how could you possibly do that? That is completely, unacceptable for you to abandon the X-Men for one person. And I think if that story was told today, I think it'd be completely different, because I think someone abandoning their group to take care of their partner, I think that would be seen as something heroic and something that we celebrated. And I think it was not expecting that reaction.
Yeah, that's right. That did happen, and it kind of was like, because when we first started these, you were reminding us of how much of a jerk Scott is, right?
Yeah.
And you wonder if he is that way because of somebody else, right? Was Professor X a little too hard on him, maybe? And that's why he's such a jerk? Because we just saw Professor X being a little bit of a jerk here. And yeah, if that was told today, yeah. I mean, you could say that about a lot of things. Would they all go on vacation together if that was told today? I mean,
yeah.
Be forced vacation. But yeah, that's an interesting question. It definitely is. it's definitely showing its age with these kind of situations. Yeah, without it makes you wonder what he expects for a level of commitment to this enterprise.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I think it speaks more to that, about kind of what he expects and his goals for the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting to see that his reaction to Scott wanting to take care of Jean after she's been brought back. Strong reaction. But
yeah. Yeah, very strong. But Cyclops won out. He stayed. Yeah. And, then the end of 102, we get a couple of cliffhangers, which is always fun.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny seeing, I still love the artwork, though. I think the artwork's great.
Yeah. Yeah, there was actually one scene that I thought was really cool. Can't remember which one it was now, but he had a couple of little splash pages that were like, yeah, that was really, really well drafted. Nice stuff.
Yeah, really good stuff. Yeah. Very, it has a classic, and maybe it's because I read these books as I was growing up, but very classic look.
Yeah.
Very clean.
Yep. And so who stole Nightcrawler?
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
I don't either. There's a lot I don't remember. There's a lot that, like you said, every page is packed. There's a lot of information on every page. A lot of things happen on every page. So it's,
So, well, maybe we'll find out next week. And it's a classic case of tune in next week.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you
want to do two issues again for next week?
It's kind of an ending, like, what's going to happen? Our heroes are down.
Got to keep them coming back every month. Yeah. Or in this case, every week. So 2 issues for next week?
Yeah.
Cool. So anybody reading and listening along will read issues 103 and 104 for next week. And if you're enjoying this, please let us know if you're reading along with us. Let us know what your thoughts are and how you're enjoying it. If you've read it before, if you haven't, I'd love to hear from you. But until next week, Jarrod, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and you can find me at Speculous Speculation Podcasts and on Film Chewing with the Oscar Project.
Always something going on over there.
Yeah.
Always something going on. Well, cool. Yeah. So until next time, if you'd like to get in touch with us, there's a link down below to send us a message directly, or you can join the forum and send us a message there as well. Join a little group there, and you can come and join our conversations and tell us how wrong we are about whatever it is we said. So until next time, we will talk to you very soon and hope you find your pick of the week. And we'll talk to you next week.
Is that too soon?
Yeah.